We've talked about your journey going from basically from when you were 6 years old up until this, like through the pandemic and healing OCD. At what point do you feel like you opened the door to spirituality and manifestation? Because you talk about that a lot. So, you're talking about that a lot. And as I know, as your wife, you are immersed in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What opened the door for you, or what was there? I know you said there was Pema back when you were 20, and then you started finding meditation again, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think, my mom gave me that Pema Chodron book when I was 20 years old, When Things Fall Apart, and that lit a little fuse in me. Yeah. And again, it took me a decade when I came back, and really, why did I come back? Because I was suffering.
Yeah.
I was dealing with, songwriting, things were going really well, but I was dealing with a ton of people. There was a lot of demands on me. There was pressures. There was expectations. And I needed something to help with all of that.
Yeah.
And I rediscovered that book.
Yep.
And I read every single book Pema ever wrote.
Yeah.
And again, there's kind of a theme.
Yeah.
I seem to, when I get into something, I kind of go really deep with things.
That's very true.
So I went all in on that. I read every single book she wrote. That snowballed into all these other, teachers, and I was really, really into Buddhism primarily in that time. Yeah, exactly.
You used to have this line because I was studying spiritual psychology, which is many different. It's like spirituality. Period. It's like from many, many different backgrounds, many teachers, and Josh would always say, I would be sharing what I'm learning. He's like, "Oh, that's so Buddhist." I'm like, "Yeah, of course it is, because it's all really at its core. Universal laws are universal laws."
Yeah, Jamie would say that, and I would be like, "I don't know. I don't know.
That's really Buddhist."
Yeah,
which it all is.
Well, you would always say it's like when it's really truth, it's all the same thing.
Totally.
And at that point, my understanding was like, I don't know. I don't think it is all the same.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like the Buddhist philosophy has it,
Yeah.
And it would take me sort of a number of years to realize that, like, whether it's, any tradition, truth is truth.
Yes.
And there is some oneness through any tradition.
And love. Yes.
Yeah. And
at
love.
Its core. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, so I think, at 30, like, rediscovered that. I started really meditating. I started doing these retreats, going around the country, doing these, 8-hour-a-day meditation retreats for a week at a time.
Yeah.
And I, did retreats with people like Jack Kornfield and Adi Ashanti and, Eckhart Tolle, which we did together.
We did that, yep.
And those were just life-changing, actually, and I'd never been that, like, just like in a room meditating for 8 hours a day. I mean, it's intense.
Yeah.
And all your stuff comes up. And I think, like you said, Jamie, like that allowed me, it's almost like, like, be careful what you wish for. It was almost like, okay, you're in the door now, you can't go back.
Yeah.
And all your stuff's going to come up. It's just inevitable. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that's a beautiful thing. That's the greatest gift ever. But when it does, it's not fun.
Yeah.
It is not for the faint of heart. But on the other side of that is like more goodness and healing and love. And so I had to really like work with all the stuff that came up. And so that was that path of meditation. And then of course we talked about, like OCD. And then I think right around that time, like I started to, there was a series of books. There was a book our friend Sheikh sent us from Adi Ashanti, The End of Your World. You had turned me on to this amazing guy named Mike Dooley.
Yep.
Who's just a sweetheart of a guy and kind of incredible. And he talked about conscious creation and manifestation and, living the life that you dream of with intentionality and affirmation. And I started really getting into him, read almost every book that he wrote. And at the same time, started reading, really amazing people like Ernest Holmes and Michael Beckwith, and, studying people like Byron Katie, and, realizing that the thoughts you think do matter, and you can argue the other side, which is positive and affirmative, just as much as you can argue the one that's causing you suffering. And so I started to really see that there's this other way of living that really suited me, that was a way of focusing on what you really want.
Yeah.
And realizing that if you put as much attention into what you do want as you are putting into things you don't want, you tend to create that in your life.
Yeah.
And it's wild. Like I had that insight where like, oh my God, like we're all like, whatever this thing is, we think this stuff, we believe this stuff, and we tend to see more evidence of that.
Yeah.
So whatever that force is, just like gravity.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen gravity?
No.
I've never seen gravity.
Yeah.
But what we all see is the effect of it.
Yeah.
So if you step off a ledge, you're going to fall. So no one can see gravity, but you see the effect of it. And I think for me, it's the same way with, if you want to call it conscious creation or visualization or manifestation, no one can see it. Mm-hmm. But there is something out there that we see the effects of it.
Yeah.
And what you focus on and what you put your energy towards and what you believe tends to grow.
Yeah.
And tends to outpicture in the world.
Yeah.
And so I started to see through all this reading and meditation and everything and talking to you, and you were such an inspiration to me, and all these amazing things you were reading and studying were also really influencing me. And I started to see like...
And you saw my business as I was doing it,
oh
right?
My God.
Yeah.
You've been, I mean, incredible. I mean, to go from, you know, I'm going to toot your horn for a minute, but to go from, you know, being a makeup artist, you know, a couple years before,
yeah.
and, you know, basically making, you know, maybe $30,000 a year,
yeah.
which is, you know,
yeah.
respectable, but then in a few short years to launching your own business as an entrepreneur, as a coach, and taking that to the way you've taken it has been hugely inspiring. And, you know, I saw that in you the day I met you. Like, I felt like we were kindred spirits. Like, we've always talked about ourselves being dreamers.
Yeah.
And I think we're both really passionate people.
Very fiery.
Very, like, we intensely embody what we want to create in the world.
True.
And we kind of don't let it go until we've really, like, seen it through. And I do think yes, it comes from our desire to create it, but I also really think it comes from our desire to share things with the world and to do our part, whatever that is, of trying to uplift the world and trying to give something back and trying to leave it a little better than we found it. And I think that's a deep desire, I think
totally.
we both feel, is trying to bring something beautiful into the world to the best of our ability. So that was a long answer to your question, but that's where I started to discover really going in on, you know, conscious creation and manifestation. And then it's like, you know, it's that amazing thing, right? When you start focusing on something, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, I'm so into the Olympics, as you know, and I would see athletes. I remember in like the Winter Olympics, there was a skier, what's her name? Eileen Gu. Okay. I remember her name. And she was like this incredible down there skier. And before every single run, she would close her eyes and she would chart her run in her mind.
Yeah.
And she was the only athlete I saw doing that. And she would, in that event, of course, a lot of athletes use this stuff, but she was literally every turn, every flip, every jump, she was visualizing before. And I think she went on to win 2 gold medals.
Wow.
And of course, she had the raw talent. She had the work ethic.
Put the foundational work in. You can't just show up and visualize yourself going down a hill. I'd be dead if I did that on a ski hill.
Me too. But it was already in her sweet spot.
Yep.
It was already in her zone of genius, if you will. And, you know, I think we were talking about this the other day. It's like, you know, I used to act.
Yeah.
And no one, unless you're doing improv, would put on a play without rehearsal.
Totally.
And that's how I started to think about visualization. I'm rehearsing for the show that I want to put on.
Yeah.
So what do I want to do? I want to go do this, and I want to serve, and I want to play in front of all these people, and I want to have my music reach millions of people. I would rehearse that in my mind.
Yeah.
I would do my dress rehearsal. I would run through.
Yeah.
You rehearse it. And for some reason, you talk to gazillions of athletes and, you know, entertainers and people in all walks of life. There is something about running it in your mind, seeing it first in your consciousness, that you sort of get a blueprint. It's almost like, I almost think about it like from the perspective of like feeling like it's real in your imagination tends to give you insights into the path to create it in reality.
Yeah. That's what I talk about with the manifestation process that I teach is like we visualize, and when we see it and we see it done and we see ourselves doing it, it's like the universe gives us the next step.
That's it.
That's right? But a lot of us don't do that inner work ahead of time of like really seeing ourselves there and believing it. And we try to just act our way there, but you know what I mean? Like, or we'll try to like hustle our way there, or like, I know I've done that. It's like, I'm almost trying to hustle out, not believe, like if I don't believe in myself, I'm like trying so hard to work, but it's like, there's something really magical that happens when you do start to visualize it and see it. It's like the universe delivers the way. It's like I always say plugging it into the GPS system of the
I love
universe.
that.
And
So
then it's
good.
like, oh, here's the next step and the next step. And you just have to trust in that and really only focus on the next step.
It's so true. And I think it's like, there's also nothing wrong with like fake it till you make it. And I
That's
think
true.
that does go a long way. And,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, there's something about like already seeing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, there's all these amazing studies. Like, you know, we read this same study where like there was someone, they had people in basketball and they had people do free throws. And they had one group that did free throws every single day for a month. And at the end of that month, they wanted to see how many free throws did each group make. So one group practiced every single day for a month. One group didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And one group just visualized themselves sinking those free throws
right.
every day
Yeah.
for a month.
There's this study with piano players too.
Okay.
I talk about a lot. Yeah.
And at the end of the month, they found that the people that simply visualized, that didn't even physically practice, had as much chances of hitting those free throws as the people that actually practice.
Yeah.
So my thing is like, imagine if you're both practicing, which I think is very, very important,
Yeah.
and visualizing.
Right.
You know, it's like you're doing the work. It's in your sweet spot. I don't think, you know, anyone's saying like, you know, you've never driven a race car before. You can just picture yourself in a race car and you're going to go win a Formula One race. It doesn't happen like that.
Or you've never played the piano and you're going to go play at wherever.
It has to be in your sweet spot. You have to put in that physical time. But I think if you do that in whatever thing you're doing, and then you also have that belief, you also have that visualization, you've run it, you've seen it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it just tends to give you the next move. Things, which is it's almost weird, it's almost eerie actually.
Yeah.
Like things tend to open up, doors tend to open.
It's true.
Emerson famously said something to the effect of new laws tend to open for you.
Yeah.
Like things that previously wouldn't have worked, like things bend, like time bends, laws bend, not like legal laws, but things that like would have held you back before
Right.
no longer hold you back. And it's almost, it's weird, you know?
Totally.
But it seems to be the nature of reality. And I think that's the magic of what you teach. And, you know, you've been so inspiring to me in that way. And just being intentional.
Yeah.
Being intentional and guarding your all of our beautiful minds. You know, it's like this garden, you know, like Thich Nhat Hanh talks about this, like, you know, like be careful what you're growing.
Yeah.
Be careful the seeds that you're growing. And we all have that. We all have negative thoughts. We all have misbeliefs. We all have doubt. That's a part of being human. We have this negativity bias. But I feel like if you can start to be more aware, and I think for me, what helps with that is being still.
Yeah.
Meditating, going out in nature, you know, having stillness where you're not just going, so you can actually be, whoa, like how much in a day am I actually thinking about what I want to create?
Yeah.
Versus how much in my day am I focusing on what I don't want to have happen?
Yeah.
And it's so sad, and myself included, for so long, I was focusing more on what I didn't want to have happen than what I did.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you can get still enough and start to inquire and be like, wait a minute, like, how much in a day am I actually focusing on what I want?
Yeah.
And then when you start doing that, it's just really weird how you start to have doors open to you towards that thing that you want to create.
Yeah.
That's what I think we've both kind of seen.
100%.
Yeah.
So someone asked in the questions, they wanted to know what your manifestation process is. And I know you kind of gave us like a big overview, but are there things that you do on a daily basis? And also, I did a couple episodes back, I did a podcast on specific manifestors and non-specific
Yeah, I
manifestors.
remember that.
And
Yep.
I happen to be more non-specific, so I kind of walked through what that looks like. And I
Yeah.
talked a little bit about what you do, but are you
Yeah.
open to sharing? Because you do every single day. You meditate. I mean, when he wakes up, first thing he does is a prayer. Then you meditate. Then you do your manifestation. Like, what do you do on a daily basis to help cultivate that focus on what you want?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said. I mean, first of all, there's like literally no one size fits all, and there's like no like judgment whatsoever. And if what works for me, I tend to be inspired by like specificity.
Yeah.
So I tend to get, you know, my juices flowing. I get excited around seeing things and visualizing, kind of like you would see an athlete, like I said, you know, going over their run or whatever. So yeah, like when I wake up, I definitely don't look at my phone.
Yeah.
That is something I would highly recommend. And I used to do that first thing, you know, your endorphins start going, that cortisol starts running, you look at your email, like that is oh my God, I'm so glad I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I definitely do not turn my phone on first thing, but I get up and I sit in bed and I just sort of close my eyes and I just sort of remember. I think the biggest thing that I try to cultivate is a feeling of awe, AWE,
Yeah.
at my place in the universe, how big everything is, how unbelievably abundant the universe is, and to even be alive. I try to cultivate that feeling of awe first thing in the morning. And I remember, I have some things that I say to myself that remind me of who I really am, the idea that we're sort of, we're all expressing this one life, and, we're each the ocean momentarily expressing as a wave. And so I kind of remember my place in the universe. That's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
And then for a couple minutes, I just sort of see my day. And it's not like I necessarily see what's going to happen because I really don't know.
Yeah.
But I focus on the feeling I want to cultivate. And so what I see like a subtle like smile on my face. I see me talking to you and like celebrating something. I see us, being joyful. I see me feeling inspired. I see things going with ease. I see things almost feeling like choiceless. Like there's this choiceless thing where every activity I choose to do in the day, I feel like I'm being led. I feel like I'm being guided. And I just feel, this is what I'm visualizing.
Yeah.
Basically. It's more of a state of being.
Okay.
And every morning I kind of start my day just generally seeing the day from morning till night and seeing my demeanor of a place of relaxed, calm confidence.
Yeah.
And joy. So that's the first thing I do. And then, we go into the living room, we make our coffee and, have my tea, and I'll meditate. And we do a number of different things depending on the day, but like we got really into this amazing teacher named Locke Kelly, who provides these incredible things. He calls glimpses. Everyone check out Locke Kelly if you're not familiar with him.
Yep.
But I'll do these glimpses, which are kind of like mini meditations.
Yeah.
And I'll do that, and I'll generally meditate for 15 to 30 minutes depending on the day. And then I always go out for a walk, and I do, generally a 30 to an hour walk. And then at some point, after
What do you do on your walk?
I'm generally listening to music.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'll make phone calls.
Yeah,
but
we go on solo walks too, which is good, I think. Yeah.
I think it's really important to have that. We had a teacher who called it squeezing your sponge.
Yeah.
We have all these things in us, and like having some alone time to just sort of be alone with nature. And, we're really lucky to be in a place where we can just walk out of our house and there's a nice little area to walk, and it's really like lovely for that. So I go on a walk, and then at some point in the day I'll actually visualize.
Yeah.
And generally what I'm doing is I'm visualizing anything from this next week to like the end of my life.
Yeah.
And it depends how I'm feeling, but it's basically just to get me in a mindset that I feel like stoked to take on the day. And I'll visualize like what I want to create with my music. I'll visualize, maybe playing in front of 1,000 people with an incredible, string quartet. I'll visualize me and you in Hawaii, and being there with our dogs and being at the ocean. I'll envision my family and my friends being healthy and safe and protected.
Yeah.
I'll envision anyone that maybe in my world that's struggling. I'll envision them feeling relief from that.
Yeah.
Vision, all kinds of things, but it's the theme of that is it's all what I'm wanting to create.
Yeah.
And just like that athlete that's seeing her run down the ski slope, I'm picturing my run.
Yeah.
And my run is not, on the ski slope, it's a run of life.
Right.
And I'm just doing that. And, it can feel intimidating. I remember being like, oh my God, I can't possibly add one more thing to my day.
Totally. I mean, we used to feel like, how could you even meditate? Like, we would get up and like go straight to work back in the day.
Which I think so many of us.
So this isn't like the routine we started with. And it's not even the routine I have. Mine is much shorter.
But I mean, even for me, it's like, there's a lot of that to do. And I find, I think some people just are it.
Yeah.
I think there's certain personalities, like they don't need that.
Yeah.
I need it.
Yeah.
For me to keep in that state of mind, that sort of positive state of mind where I feel really balanced, I need those practices. And some other people might not. They might just be like, yeah, man, I just get out, go for a run and I'm good to go. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Some people just have that. But for me, I need those practices to remind me of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And what the big picture is. And so I don't know if this is going to be helpful for people, but I know for me, I found it so helpful to break things down into realistic, tangible goals.
Yeah.
So when I first started meditating, I was doing 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that felt like an eternity. And it's the same with like visualization. Even now, I'm doing so much, I'm making this record now. It's 16 pieces and I did this whole orchestra and everything. And I feel like there's not a lot of time in the day for stuff. But for me, in order to keep visualizing, I say, Josh, do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd actually prefer doing it for longer because it feels so good.
Yeah.
But I psych myself up. I say, you just have to do 5 minutes. And so I set my timer for 5 minutes. And more often than not, I find I do it longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But somehow I trick myself into thinking.
Just have to start.
Oh, it's just 5.
Yeah.
You just have to
totally,
start.
100%.
That's the key. And it's so funny. Like even now I'm tricking myself because there's something in me that still doesn't want to do it.
I used to do that with workouts. I was like, I only have to work out for 10 minutes. That's how I started my workout journey. And it's true. Sometimes I only did do it for 10 minutes. But most of the time, once I started, I'm like, this feels good. The hardest part is starting. So same with meditation.
100.
Or visualization or anything, journaling, same thing, right? The hardest part is starting.
The hardest part is starting. And the other thing that I've experienced, and listen, my whole 20s, I did not do any of this.
Yeah. And you still created incredible things in your life, right? So it's not like, you're still manifesting. It's more of just like, what are you focused on majority of the time?
Yeah. And for me, I'm happier doing these practices.
Right.
Because I don't feel like I'm just sort of like, it's like my life is calmer.
Yeah.
I feel in a more joyful state of being because of these reminders. They're like little reminders, And so for me, it's like, if I can do these things, the weird part, and I always remember, again, I feel like I keep bringing up Pema Chödrön, but she's been a big influence on me. And she would say, man, I know so many of you feel like you couldn't possibly have any more time in your day thinking about meditation. I know it seems, she said, but here's the miracle of meditation. If you make the time, you'll find you have more time. And I went, wait, what? And all of a sudden I started thinking, and all of a sudden my brain like exploded, and I was like, and I started to do it, and I realized things that used to take me an hour when I was centered took me a half an hour. Things that like, oh man, I gotta like call this person, it's like it's kind of a a tricky topic, but things that I would be kind of dreading when I was centered were easy.
Yeah.
And so I completely got what she meant, that you literally can sort of bend time because you're going into things with a more centered approach.
Yeah.
And so these activities that you used to maybe dread or that would take you 2 hours now take you half the time.
Right.
So that's the thing I have to continually remind myself.
Yeah.
Because there's days where we just don't want to do it.
Totally.
I don't want to do it. But I'm reminded like, wait a minute, Josh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If you do this stuff, when you actually get into the studio, when you and Jamie are doing whatever you're doing, you are going to be more centered. You're going to get better results, and you're going to enjoy yourself more.
Yeah.
So it's a little painful sitting down and doing it. I still have to remind myself, and I've been doing it, over, 10 years now.
Yeah.
But
amazing.
God, is it worth it?
Yeah. So I love it. So we could talk forever, but there's a few more things I want to cover. So we got to do rapid fire responses. Okay.
All right. I know, man, this is gone. We got long.
I know. Okay. We'll cut that out where we're talking about that. But you could say we're going to do rapid fire responses. Okay.
Yep.
I want to hear about, in a succinct way, your relationship with money and how you think about abundance that has allowed you to make that pivot from songwriting to a whole new thing where you have no connections at all, and how you felt safe kind of like making that transition.
Okay. So first I would say, again, I have to sometimes say these caveats because I think it's really important to be like real with people. I would say, I was really fortunate to have success as a songwriter. So that gave me a really good nest egg to feel like I could have, the number of years that it's taken to start actually making money from classical music.
Yep.
I also have a wife, that's doing amazing in her business and, being really successful and abundant. And that has also been very helpful and, relieved me of the feeling of, oh man, I got to start, making a living right away because you were doing so well. And, the songs that I did that were hits gave me a great platform to do this. So that's first we should say that in the interest of being real, but it still took a lot of courage for me.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I feel like I'm saying similar things, but this is so important. for me is go where the love is.
Yeah.
And I got to see firsthand with songwriting, I went where the love is.
Yeah.
And it turned out amazingly for me. You know,
Yeah.
not just like it lit me up. I was working with one of my heroes, you know, with Billy, but I did, you know, by all means, you know, intents and purposes, like it was a really lucrative thing as well, and it was very abundant, and I got you know, to be compensated really well for something I actually love doing, which is like, God, what more can you ask for? And so the only thing I did with that is I went where the love was.
Yeah.
I practiced my you know what off.
Yeah.
I worked super hard, and I believed in myself, and I went where the love is.
Yeah.
And so I think when I would have those doubts and when I would have those insecurities about starting this whole new thing, I just kept reminding myself, Josh, like, you feel so passionate about, like, you feel like you did when you were 19 years old for songwriting.
Right.
That can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Like, the universe would not have given me this idea if there wasn't a means to achieve it.
Yeah.
Like, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like such a soulful desire. It did not feel like a whim.
Yeah.
This wasn't just like a fad. Oh, yeah, I think I'll do this. Like, no, this was like, you know, I've also been studying this since I was 6 years old. It felt like a full circle moment for me, almost like a little bit of a hero's journey, if you will. And so I just kept saying, dude, if you go where the love is, amazing things will happen.
Yeah.
And that was like a mantra for me.
Yeah.
And that gave me the courage to be like, hey, I did it before with songwriting.
Yeah.
Why is this any different?
Right.
Equally as passionate about this as I did when I first started songwriting. I'm so in the zone.
Yeah.
I love it to death.
Yeah.
It's going to work out.
Yep.
And every time that little negative thought would come in, I would just learn to be like, all right.
Yeah.
You know, my dad has a great line that he said, I'll never forget it. And he said, you know, sometimes he has those thoughts and, you know, thoughts of, you know, lack and limitation, all that. And he would say, that thought would come in. He would say, that's a thought.
Yeah. I love that. It's good.
And here's another one.
Yeah.
What if it does work?
Yeah.
What if I can do it?
Yes.
What if I'm actually gonna, you know, inspire other people with this? You know, like, so I just, again, like the house flipper, I just kept flipping thoughts, you know?
Well, and I remember the conversation that we were having when you were really nervous. It was when you were still not all in on it yet. And we were having our walking, like, we do go for walks together too, obviously, but as we're sharing. But I remember you saying, like, well, how could I do this? Because, you know, I can make so much in songwriting. And I remember that conversation that we had, and it's like, yeah, but like, that's not guaranteed.
Absolutely not.
So it's like, why not go where the love is?
Absolutely. And I think that's, it was almost like, it was really like disorienting because it's like, again, it's like, I feel like what so many of us wish for is like something that we actually love, that we're compensated well for. Like that's kind of a dream. And so it just didn't make any sense on paper.
Yeah.
But you were really helpful with that, with like, hey, there's no guarantee. I mean, do you know how many people write songs every day?
I know.
I did. I mean,
you wrote like thousands of songs.
I mean,
it's not like they're guaranteed to get on the radio.
Most of the songs I wrote did not ever leave my room.
Yeah.
Like 95% of them never left the room.
Probably more than that.
Yeah, I remember Billy used to say that. He would say, you know, if you take out all your hit songs that you've had, there's thousands that weren't. And like, you'd have to get another job. You couldn't support yourself, you know? So it's like, it's those couple songs that go that really, you know, are able to support your life.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful, like talking with you about it and being like, wait a minute, like you've got as much odds of doing this as you do anything else.
As a songwriter,
as a songwriter, and if you actually love this like you do, like there's one life, man.
Yeah.
Like that was another thing that was really inspiring to me. It's like, you know, I don't know what everyone believes. We all have different beliefs. Like, you know, if this is the only existence, if there's anything after this, whatever you believe though, this current incarnation, if you will, you got one.
Yeah.
Why would you not do what lights you up?
I know.
Like I just couldn't play it safe.
That's how I feel too.
And we were lucky. We had the platform we could do that. Like really fortunate. But like, why would I not do what felt like the deepest soul calling?
I know.
Like what kind of? Why would I not do that?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be on my deathbed and being like, man, like why didn't I listen to that voice? Like I just can't. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so I think, I don't know. I mean, if you want to call that, it's almost like I don't even know if it's courage. I just had to.
Yeah.
I had to, and I resisted it for a long time, and you were so helpful. So anyway, that's
okay. I love it.
Long-winded answer.
No, it's so good. My next question is, what's next? What are you excited about?
Man, I mean, I guess all that to say, like now, like I feel so inspired to. There's just so much music in me, and I feel like I'm, this album I'm making now, we just got back from Stockholm and I recorded, a 19-piece orchestra with these incredible Stockholm studio orchestra. And I'm playing pianos, I'm playing synthesizers, I'm doing guitars on it. I feel like it's the most like emotional and it's the most me thing I think I've ever done. And I just cannot like wait until I get to share that with people and just see people's response to it and what it brings in them.
Yeah.
What it inspires in them. And I'm so grateful for the people that have responded to my music. And I feel like it's just the beginning. And I'm so called to share it in bigger and bigger ways. And, I'm grateful that, my pieces so far, like have been, streamed, by millions of people. But the next step for me, I'm excited about is touring, is live, is actually getting in front of an audience. And I got a little taste of it in Stockholm playing with that orchestra, but playing shows all over the world, playing with an ensemble of incredible musicians, reaching people in that way, communicating, it's like a dialogue, communicating through music to audiences all over the world. I am so inspired to do that.
Yeah.
And to see the world, maybe together.
Yeah.
And
obviously.
Well, you might not go on every leg
I
of
know,
every tour.
after that Stockholm flight, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go on every tour.
Yeah. But that I'm so inspired to do that. And I just feel like I can't even, there's so much music in me that is coming out and coming out. And, I'm working on this current record, 16 pieces, and I'm already writing ideas for the record after that. And I'm just kind of stockpiling them on my phone and keeping them in my voice notes.
This man can write, y'all.
Well, I love it. I don't know what to say. It's like, I'm doing what I'm meant to do.
I know.
And I think when...
So obvious.
Yeah, it's like when any of us do that, like it's just not... It's like, it's just kind of choiceless. Like, I have to do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so inspired to keep sharing it, to share in bigger and bigger ways.
Yeah.
To work with partners, that can help me amplify what I'm doing.
Yeah.
To expose the music to more and more people all over the world.
Right.
To continue this dialogue with people, to communicate their music. And I think, that's on the professional level. And then I think on a personal level, with me and you, I mean, we have, I think you've been talking about it a lot to your followers and your clients and stuff, but Hawaii, this dream of ours, feeling so soulfully connected to this place, and next year to make that a reality, and have the privilege of being able to call that our
full-time home.
That's a really inspiring thing to create together.
Yes.
And I think next is like continuing to try to grow as a person, like to continue trying to step into my most authentic self, and like knowing I'm going to be far from perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not going to nail it every time, but continuing to let that be my intention. Like, where am I not, stepping into my truest self and trying to be more patient, trying to be more loving.
Yeah.
With everyone, including myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I think that's such a good, I was just reflecting as you were sharing. I'm like, this is something for you as the listener to reflect on. If I were to ask you, what are you excited about? Would you have a vision that clearly and belief in it? I mean, we feel it. You're just speaking this into existence. We don't know that there's nothing that says Josh will be on tour next year or we're moving here or whatever. But it's just you believe in it so hard and you have that vision and you hold it. And that's why it happens. You speak it into existence. So I think that's a powerful little also nugget I want to put out there of I
love that.
It might be a good opportunity to ask yourself that. What are you excited about?
I love that. And I love that so much. And I think to add on to that, it's so fun. I think it's really important to focus on the fun of it all. We shouldn't take this stuff too seriously. This is supposed to be fun. And I think it's really, myself included, oh my God, it's so easy to get in the nitty gritty and you lose focus of that. And it's why, for me, it's whether it's a walk or it's meditation or it's taking time out, it's so important to step back and remember the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's I feel so fortunate to get to do this. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Whether it's creating things with you or, doing this music and reaching people, it's it's got to begin with being fun.
Yeah.
This really should, we're not here just to slog through and suffer through
No.
this stuff. Like, it should really be not every moment. That's unrealistic, but
Bring
for
the
most
fun
part,
into it.
Yes,
And we have a lot of fun. I feel like that.
Absolutely. But I just think it's so important to remember.
Yeah,
that,
I agree. Totally.
It really is supposed to.
Yes, it's
be
not
fun.
that serious.
It's not that serious.
It's really not.
It's not.
So good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I have one last question. And Jillian, I'm going to shout out to Jillian. She said,
Okay.
You must ask it in this exact way.
Oh, wow.
She says, what is it like being married to the manifestation queen?
I love it. That's so great.
Well, as you can tell, he happens to be the manifestation king.
I don't know about that one, but that is not a self-imposed title. But yeah, Jamie, by the way, around the house does not call herself the manifestation, although she is incredible. What is it like married to Jamie? You know, I think I've said this in various ways, but Jamie has like changed my life so much, like in so many numerous ways beyond what I could even imagine. Like, given a depth to my life that I feel like I like wanted but didn't fully realize I could have, or to the degree that I have now. And I feel like I couldn't ask for a more like loving, supportive partner. And just like, you know, we're best friends, we're married, we have so many similar interests. And I just think like it goes back to, I think maybe the earlier thing I'm saying, we're just both dreamers, and like we just love creating together and going on these adventures together. And I mean, she's just so inspiring.
Aww.
You know, I mean, whether it's seeing what she did with her business, or you know, seeing where she came from, creating all that she's created. I mean, you definitely like, I like literally could not ask for a better partner. And I think you've so, yeah, I mean, it's almost hard to, you know, like when you really love someone, it's hard to articulate what they've done, you know, how your life has changed. It's like, I wouldn't even want to think what my life would be like without Jamie in it.
Aww.
So yeah, what's it like with the manifestation queen? It's amazing. You know, it's also real. It's like we have our down days. We get annoyed
Tell
with
them
each
the real
other.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We get annoyed with each other like everyone. But I think like, you know, we try. We're not perfect, but
No.
we try to like always remember like there's a deep love there.
Definitely.
And even when we get annoyed with
Yeah.
each other, and
Yes.
you know, I don't do the dishes the way you'd like to do it, and blah, 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 whatever. There's always like behind that, there's just a deep, deep love.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's the same. And a great trick too. I learned this from Thich Nhat Hanh. I love so much. Anytime someone is like, you know, if someone's annoying you, or like, you're like, oh God, this person.
Me annoying you?
Yeah, exactly. Not, you know, whether it's your spouse, your partner, a friend, whatever. He goes, imagine that person 100 years from now.
Yeah.
And of course, the image 100 years from now is they're gone.
Yeah.
They've left the earth. So that for me instantly, like anytime you feel like some silly, ridiculous little fight, you're like, oh my God.
Right.
I'm so grateful to even be in the same lifetime as
Right.
Jamie, let alone the same house, and sharing this life. I am so like instantly like, you know,
Aw.
oh, Jamie said she'd do this thing, she didn't do it. It's like, dude, I'm so freaking lucky to even like be sharing a life with this person. It's a good way of like stepping back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
reminding yourself of what's really important.
Well, I so appreciate that. And I so appreciate you coming on.
My
It's been a
pleasure.
long time coming. I've been
Amazing.
manifesting Josh coming on for about a year. We finally made it happen. So
Made it happen.
thanks for being here, Josh. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your inspiring story, and for being my manifestation buddy. I appreciate it.
Well, I love you, and thank you for having me on. It really was actually like super fun. to
Told
talk
you it
about
would
this.
be, right?
No, it was awesome, and
Come here, Millie.
yeah, it was interesting. It was actually really cool to like talk about all this and kind of like take stock of like, you know, our journey and
Yeah.
my road. It's really interesting. I suddenly I'm getting choked up, but I'm actually losing my voice.
Yep. Because we've been going for a while. We're going to wrap things up. Thanks for being here, Joshy.
My
Love you. We'll
pleasure.
put
Love
all
you
of we're going to put lots of stuff in the show notes. So we're going to put all your albums, where they can find you on Spotify, Apple
amazing.
Music, all that stuff. You can follow Joshy. And here's little Millie. If you're on YouTube, you can see she's been with us the whole time. And she brought her 11 presents too. All right. Have a beautiful week, you all.
Take care, everyone.